Okay, how do I light this shot? Hello? Hey, what's up? Yeah, I found the clicker. Why? It was rolling while you called me, and I answered. I'll cut it out. Definitely need this for this video. Okay, so the video you guys have all been waiting for. This one's gonna be completely honest. Now, I'm not gonna try and hide anything. This is everything that I can remember as of right now, and I'm gonna try and stay on point for as much as I possibly can. So for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who are watching this video for the first time or watching my videos, my name is Tyler. I have a Genesis Coupe, a 2011 Genesis Coupe, or otherwise known as a BK1. It is a 2.0 turbo, which I just put a big turbo kit on. More specifically, I put the TECCRations turbo kit on, the TECCRations turbo kit that includes the intercooler, because they have one that doesn't include the intercooler. Now, there are gonna be some things that we're gonna go over in this video that are for just turbos in general, that if you're gonna be turboing your car, that you need, as in to make everything safe. I have a notes list that I wrote over here on my laptop just to make sure that we stay on topic, because there's a bunch of stuff, as you guys know if you've been following the videos. Now, the first thing that we're gonna go over is everything that I used to keep this safe. Safe is the keywords, and everything that I did possible to make this kit run and make power safely. You're gonna need at least 1000 cc injectors. Now, I have 1000 cc DW injectors. I have a 350 milliliter or whatever, however fuel pumps are rated, the DW 350 pump, a Haltech plug-in ECU, obviously the TECCRations turbo kit, a flex fuel sensor. Now, the flex fuel sensor that I used was a stock OEM flex fuel sensor from a 2008 Chevy Suburban, I think it was. And then obviously the lines for the flex fuel kit to adapt the flex fuel kit. It intercepts your fuel rail and your fuel line right before there. So just the line in between there. And some sort of clutch, obviously, to keep the power down. The stock Genesis doesn't really handle much over like stock power. My clutch went out just under normal wear and tear driving at 60,000 miles. So I did a video way back when, getting an upgraded spec clutch, because I knew I was gonna add power later, so I didn't need to get a clutch, I already had a clutch installed. Now, the biggest thing, a lot of people are concerned about how much power I made and my power numbers, and they say I'm gonna blow it up. Now, here's the reason why a lot of people think like because my car makes a huge amount of horsepower, it makes, well, not huge, but huge for these cars, I make over 400 wheel horsepower on stock internals. Now, the biggest thing here is torque. Torque number is directly related to how much force is being applied to those parts, whereas the horsepower isn't really what's the applied force of that is. Now, with the smaller turbos like a GT3076R or the Tomei turbos, where they're smaller turbos and they spool up faster, they create more power down low and they create more torque. Now, with the turbo that comes with this kit is a GT35R. It's a much larger turbo. It's a 64 millimeter or somewhere around that turbo size. It's so large that it doesn't really have the capability of producing that power down low. So you get all your power up high, which then in terms doesn't really bring up the torque numbers. So I have a really, really low torque number with a really high horsepower number, which is what allows me to get that number. So I make 416 wheel, we made more than 416 wheel horsepower, but we tuned it back down to make it safer. So we made 416 wheel horsepower with 320 foot-pounds of torque. Now, with the installation of this kit, again, I had the TECCRations turbo kit with the intercooler. Areas where I specifically struggled with this kit were with the oil return line, because the oil return line like adapter fitting that they give you is for a rubber hose. That's never gonna work. It's an absolute necessity that you need to get a braided stainless steel line, so you need to get those parts fabricated to mount that to this kit. Not only that, the fitting, there's a little T-fitting that they provide that adapts into your oil pressure sensor and then bypasses your original OE oil feed line Now that bolt that was in there, or that oil feed line that was in there, leaves a hole in the side of the block, obviously because there was something in there before. This new T-fitting, when they replace it and they adapt to your oil pressure sensor, making everything come out of one hole, there's now a hole that's left in the side of the block that does nothing and just dumps oil out, and you need to find a bolt that's going to fit in there, which is really, really difficult. I had to go to a specialty, J&G specifically, that they are an aircraft and like race car performance shop where they carry all these fittings. They had to get me a custom fitting to fit in that part of the block, which was super annoying, by the way. The intercooler piping on this kit is not the greatest by any means. It's never gonna line up perfectly. You just have to do your best to do everything. I was able to get it in there and not have any boost leaks or anything like that, so it can work, it's just not really ideal. Another thing is that CXRacing does not provide any of the bolts to bolt the turbo to the manifold that they provide, or bolt the exhaust housing more specifically, to the backside of the turbo. They provide the flange and the gaskets that go in between it, but they do not provide any of those bolts, so you need to find bolts that are rated for the proper heat rating, as well as the torque rating for those things, to make sure that that stays in there. Now, let's move on to issues that I have had with the kit. Obviously, you guys have known my huge, like, major issues. I've made videos of it, but I'm gonna go over everything that I've had, like, literally from the factory, or things that, like, just normal wear and tear. What is the durability of this kit? Now, when I first got this kit right out of the box, one of the bolts to the compressor side of the turbo was stripped, and I had to rethread it and get Teflon tape and a bigger bolt to thread it in there so that it would seal it. The bolts that I said that they didn't provide, even though I got the proper heat rating and torque rating bolts to secure down the turbo to the manifold and to the exhaust housing, this kit experiences so many vibrations, it's ridiculous. It cannot keep bolts in there to save its life. I literally bought like maybe 4 or 5 packs of bolts because they all rattled loose and fell out, no matter how much I torqued them. Every time I drive, I'd have to open my hood and torque down those bolts every day, and I would still lose bolts when I would drive. So I literally had to go, you guys saw in the previous video, I had to go to my buddy's Jordan and get those all tack welded. I haven't had any issues since, but that was a real pain in the ass. Another thing you guys know is I snapped my wastegate housing clean off. Snapped the wastegate housing clean off. So the welds on the CXRacing manifold are not that great. It would be ideal when you have it out of the box to go get all those welds reinforced, because you do not want that to happen like I had happen. Snap while you're driving, if you get this kit. Now, another issue that I had one of the bolts from the wastegate, like I said, it experienced a lot of vibrations. One of the bolts from the wastegate kind of backed out of itself, so I experienced a lot of overboosting and cuts, because the ECU is tuned a specific way. If it notices too much boost pressure, it's gonna cut it. Now, I don't know if that's from when the wastegate snapped off and it was just dangling and hanging by those pieces and then loosened those bolts, and then with all the vibrations it loosened those, or if the vibrations itself just loosened those bolts. I have no idea. Take that for whatever you want. Just the bolts came loose and I experienced overboost, which is obviously not good. That can be really dangerous. Another huge thing, this is probably just for turbo kits and top mount kits in general, everything gets super, super hot. You need to get all the heat shielding that you possibly can to make sure that you don't melt anything, and even at that, like, it's literally melting my carbon fiber hood vents. So another thing with the CXRacing kit specifically, you need to fabricate all the lines for that thing. No ifs, ands, or buts. You need to get braided stainless steel lines made for the oil feed and return, as well as the 2 coolant lines on the side. If you don't, you're just gonna be like me and you're gonna run into issues. It's not if it's gonna fail, it's when it's gonna fail. I recommend you save yourself the hassle. It's $23 freaking. Just go out and buy yourself and get yourself made a new hose so that that stuff doesn't fail. Now, I know there's a whole bunch of like talking and whatever in this thing. Just try and stay with me. I'm trying to stay like on point as much as possible with like issues that I had, things that like it took to put this kit in, and then like everything it required to just try and make this power safely. Now, here is just longevity of your car. To me, like, this is my issues with the car now with putting a big turbo kit on it. If you guys are looking into getting this kit or putting in a turbo kit on your car in general, issues with the car now is that it's very, 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 I cannot express how much this car is now temperamental. Like, anything and everything this car is sensitive to. So sensitive to the point, like, it's just because the ECU and everything that it goes through when you get a standalone ECU has a lot of safety regulations, which is good. Because if you notice anything out of range or out of spec, or if you have bad gas, the ECU is going to recognize that and account for that, where it's either going to pull timing or it's going to change the dynamics of how the car runs to try and keep it as safe as possible. Now, in doing so, it's it's so overly protective that it even has regulations for the air conditioning. Now, if the air conditioning goes over a certain pressure that it's functioning at, it will shut it off. So I had an issue for a while where literally my car was just shutting off the air conditioning and not letting it run because it thought it was running too high. When in reality, it was still in a safe zone. The ECU just didn't like it and didn't let my air conditioning run. I went to a whole shop to try and figure out my AC thing, and everything checked out and nothing was broken. My compressor worked, everything was working, and we couldn't figure out why the AC wasn't working. And then we went back into the ECU with my tuner and we found out that there was an AC restriction, and we had to raise that so that it would work properly. And it still has some issues with that. Like, drivability with the air conditioning just makes it so much harder on the car. I know it's like, why put a big turbo kit if you're trying to, it's like, I'm still trying to daily drive my car and have fun with my car and not die of heat stroke because it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. When you do all this stuff and you run E85 and you have flex fuel, and like I said, this ECU is very temperamental, you don't always get a first start on your car. Your car isn't always going to start up. Now, like I said, I build my cars to drive. I don't want to build a garage queen or something that's going to sit in my driveway. So, I mean, it's about the experience of the car. I don't want something to drive just on the weekend. I want something that I can build and have fun with every single day, because to me, it's about the experience. So, like, at that point, it takes a lot of drivability away from your car. No ifs, ands, or buts. Lay it out on the table. My car is way less reliable and way less drivable on a daily basis. It's like really annoying. And obviously, you're increasing your fuel pump, increasing your fuel injector, so obviously fuel consumption is going to go right out the window. I used to get anywhere from 28 to 30 miles a gallon. When I drive on the freeway or around town, when I run on E85, I get around 11 miles to the gallon. I need to take a drink for that. Let's. 11 miles to the gallon. That hurts. And then when I run on 91, which 91 is not anywhere close to as safe as E85, because E85 has 112 or 116 octane rating. It's like almost like race gas. And out here in California, we only get 91, which is like night and day difference as in safety and how the heat ratings that this thing produces. But on 91 pump gas, when I'm driving, I still only get like 16, 17 miles to the gallon. That's on the freeway, not on the street. So it takes a huge hit. And again, like, I wouldn't be upset about the gas mileage if my car was more drivable. Like, it's just not. I had a great tuner tune this car, and it makes power and it does it very, very safely, but it just makes it like issues with the kit, having to worry about all the heat temperatures and everything like that. It just literally takes the fun out of it, and it's really disheartening. Now, this is by any means not a video to complain and tell you like, oh, like whatever. I'm just trying to give you guys a reality of the breakdown, because a lot of people make it seem like, oh, put power into it. It's not a build if you don't put power. You can have your build at any stage, and I'm trying to give you the reality of what it's like to build a race car and make power out of your car. It becomes less reliable and everybody's probably gonna be like, oh, well, duh, but like, you don't realize, you take your car that you love every single day, that you drive, that I've never had issues with my car once. It's never been in the shop the entire time I've owned it. It's been nothing but good to me. As soon as I put this turbo kit on, I've had nothing but issues. My car's been in and out of the shop. My car's been on and off the tow truck. I've had to work on this thing. I've had to miss work because I didn't have a means to transportation, because I had to fix my car. And if I didn't fix my car, then I'd be out of a car for a few days because shops wouldn't be open, or just, it's literally a pain in the ass when you have to worry about your car not making where you need to go every single day. And at that point, people were like, well, get a daily driver. And it's like, well, why did I build the car in the first place? If I was going to build a track car specifically, I would have just built a straight out race car and kept it for the track. But I was trying to build a street car that's something that I could have fun with every single day, something that was going to have some get up and go, something that's not like ridiculous. And so, to be honest, for all of you out there, my personal opinion, after going through everything that I've been through and still battling all these issues, to me, honestly, making power is not really worth it if you cannot fund a full-on race car build. And what I mean by that is literally taking apart the entire car, building the entire motor, building everything with the car, like getting the best stuff that you can, and having somebody go over it to make sure that it's in top pristine condition and everything is done correctly. Because it's like the smallest thing can create the biggest issue. It's cool, yeah, that my car makes horsepower, but I honestly feel like I never get to use it. Why? Because I'm so afraid that something else is gonna break anytime I get on the car. Regardless, and I'm not even talking about just the motor, I'm talking about anything, like snapping something on the manifold, or having the wastegate broke actually twice and I had to get it re-welded twice. And just anything, always being concerned every time you get in your car, not knowing if you're gonna end up on a tow truck. It's like, it's not worth it. It's really not. And that's just my honest opinion going out there for you guys. So, I mean, on this, you guys are probably gonna say, well, if I had a better quality kit, I probably wouldn't have all these issues, and you're probably right, I probably wouldn't. But I know people who turbo their cars with Garrett turbos, precision turbos, Tomei turbos, and they face similar issues as well. I'm not saying their craftsmanship is poor, I'm just saying running into things like vibrations and things breaking. You make more power, like it's not meant to do that, and so there's a bunch of other things that could fail. So, with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, this is just my honest review. I hope it didn't ramble on and make, go everywhere, but I'm just trying to give you guys everything in my entire experience with this kit and turboing my car. And it's been a lot. So there's a bunch more videos coming soon. Smash that like button, comment down below, let me know if this was helpful for you, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Cheers.